All right, joining me now with more on the education front is FRC Senior Fellow for Education Studies, Meg Kilgannon. Meg, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. It's great to be here. What a great bill that is in Florida. I'm so happy that we have legislators who are brave enough to take those hits to bring that forward.
It is not limited to the state of Florida. As a result of parents getting involved in communities across the country, we're now finding more legislators with the wind in their sails of the people are introducing legislation like this. We've seen some in Missouri, which has some on the left upset. Tell us about it.
Well, the situation in Missouri and in neighboring Kansas is that the newspapers out there aren't happy that both of those legislatures are bringing forward parental rights bills, just like the one we just heard about in Florida. And it really isn't surprising that parents would like to have more of a say in education. We spent last year educating our kids through the pandemic. And it's sort of a Rosie the Riveter situation where when we were needed, we were there and they were expecting us to work and do the job. And now that they're back in charge, they want us to go home and go back to our lives and just let the experts handle it. And fortunately, parents are not just sitting back. They are seeking more information from their schools, and when they are not getting it at the school level, they're going to their state legislators, and they're getting some really interesting legislation coming through. One of the bills in Missouri is interesting because it charges the schools a fine for not engaging with parents and puts that in a fund that would fund school choice.
Yeah.
So it's great to have the 50 state laboratories that will work out these issues and come up with creative solutions to problems.
Well, I believe it was in Missouri, one of the provisions would require the teachers to post the curriculum online so parents have access to it. They don't have to go through all these hurdles to try to find out. And it was interesting, some of the teachers, and I don't want to speak for all the teachers because, they go to specific teachers that are going to say what they want to say. There's a lot of good teachers out there. And I just want to say this once again. I do believe I don't believe we should be sending our children into these public schools, these government schools that have become like Sodom and Gomorrah. And I know not everybody has that choice, but you need to make it a priority to get your children into a place where not only they learn, but they're not being indoctrinated. I mean, it should be overly evident now as to what is occurring in these public school classrooms. But I am grateful and I want to encourage those that are called to teaching to continue to go into Christians, to go into the public schools, to be a light in this dark place. But I say all that to say this, they were complaining that some of these teachers, where will the time come from for us to post this material? We're already overburdened. And so how will we have time to do this? Well, I've got a suggestion. They could take it from the time they're doing the sex ed instruction, the time that they're spending on confusing our children about gender and sexual identity. They could just do away with that, and they would have plenty of time to post the curriculum online.
They would indeed. And interestingly, that comment was made by the union representative, who in theory is responsible for negotiating the contract. So what she's telling you is she hasn't negotiated a very good contract for her members. And maybe teachers and teachers unions should think about what kind of service they're getting from those unions and perhaps not join and not contribute to this nonsense. That's very much a top-down agenda. The national organizations push this stuff through the schools and the teachers unions help them do that.
I was talking with Representative Harding a few moments ago about, what if we were to return what the original purpose of education was, to teach children to learn, to be able to read and to write. And look, I am not naive. I know that we have a lot of issues with children coming to school that haven't been fed because they're in bad home situations. I know that happens, all right? But what does that have to do with spending all of this time on sowing confusion in the minds of our children on sexual identity and all this stuff on gender? Unless you have an agenda. And I believe that's what's happened, is the agenda of the left has taken over and eclipsed anything to do with actually educating our children to help them be successful in our public school system.
And when you don't educate children, you're not going to allow them to have that ladder out of a terribly impoverished situation, right? This is a key tenet of the value of public education, is that it's everybody's ticket out of poverty. If you work hard and you study and you learn, you can advance. And the idea that that children's reading scores are terribly low. We had learning loss during the pandemic, and that making up that ground to the exclusion of everything else, even electives, frankly, not just sex education, but some of the electives that I know students enjoy. But that time could be used to catch students up from the learning loss they had through the pandemic.
Well, Meg Kilgannon, we're not giving up on public education, because I do think we're at one of those pivotal moments in the history of our country where I see a course correction. I was talking about it earlier when we said that we've got the 18-wheelers rolling for freedom. We've got the minivans rolling for freedom to school board meetings as well. And actually, FRC Action has another session coming up. Tell us about it.
We do. On Saturday, we're going to have in Virginia the first that I know of, the first training for elected school board members. And it's going to be a time for school board members who share a worldview that is consistent with our biblical worldview to come together and talk about issues, get training on what they're going to face as they join the school board and start their service. And we're going to have a conversation about a lot of different things and hear from them about the kind of support they need from us, and try to give them the encouragement and support and technical assistance they need to do their jobs so that they can inject their worldview, bring their worldview to bear on a system that desperately needs it. So we're really excited about this opportunity. It's going to happen in Lynchburg, Virginia this weekend. And we're looking forward to this testing case and to taking this to states all over the country, because we're having more and more interest in this kind of training for elected school board members. The people that we've encouraged to run for school board who have done it and are now serving need our support, our prayer support, and our practical support so that they can do their jobs on behalf of the nation's children.
So, Meg, how can people find out more? If they're in Virginia or close by, how can they find out about Saturday's session?
You can go to www.frcaction.org/schools, and you can visit the Noah Webster Educational Foundation website, and there's a link there to the School Board Summit registration page.
And also on the FRC Action website, there's also information from previous training sessions that people can access, because there's still time. The filing date for some school boards still a couple of months away. So, you need to seriously pray. People need to be praying about whether or not they run. And I know that we got tools that can help them succeed. Meg Kilgannon, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for stopping in today.
Thank you, Tony.